Today I want to talk to you about why cooking with cast iron is such a game changer. I cook with it all the time at home. I cook everything in this pan, and I love having it around. It makes my life a lot easier. Hi, my name is Michelle Minori. I'm a chef in San Francisco. Welcome to my kitchen. I'm gonna show you why cooking with cast iron is really all you need to cook with. It retains heat really well, really great for non-stick, and it's super easy to clean. Today we're gonna make a few things that will demonstrate those properties. And the first thing we're gonna do is a braised lamb shank. When we sear the lamb, you're really gonna see how well you can get a deep sear and color on not just meat, but veggies too, which will impart a really great flavor into any braise. I'm gonna start to just cut up some veggies that we're gonna sear and throw in the pot with the lamb. I guess technically this could be considered a Dutch oven because it has a tight fitting lid and you can go directly in the oven, and this one just has the added benefit of also being cast iron. I always treat my cast iron pans with a little bit of oil, and so when you heat them up the first time, if you see that it begins to smoke, some of that residual oil is kind of burning off, but it's like starting to smoke a little bit, so we know it's hot. I'm just gonna wipe some of that oil out. Turn it down just a smidge. I always use a neutral oil when I'm searing stuff. Has a higher smoke point. And then just put all your marinated meat directly in the pan. I always like to make sure my pan is really hot before I put anything in there, really like meat or veggies, because the pan has a chance to like really expand. And when you add your oil, it creates like a little surface tension, and that's usually what keeps things from sticking. If you're not used to cooking with cast iron, you might be tempted to just sear the meat in a regular saute pan and then put it in a baking dish or something. There's really nothing to be scared of with cast iron. I like it a lot because it gets like a deep sear and caramelization on meat especially. It like makes all the salt and spices really crusty and kind of crunchy, which will then like mellow into your braising liquid. So that's why I always reach for a Dutch oven or a cast iron when I'm braising something, because it keeps all the heat really trapped inside of the meat. Okay, so the lamb is nicely seared. It's got some good color. Got a nice little crust from all the spices. The spices have definitely caramelized on the bottom of the pan, and I want to sear all my veggies, but I don't want all those little burnt bits of spice. So if you have a lot of stuff stuck to the bottom of the pan, I like to add a little bit of coarse salt and just take your towel that you don't really care about and rub the salt into your pan. And instead of having to scrub and put tons of elbow grease into a saute pan, all you have to do is scrub away with the salt, and it's like you have a new pan. The salt really just creates like a level of friction. It's basically just scrubbing all that stuff off, so it's really clean, and it's also seasoning your pan. So I just dump this salt out. I just put the pan back over medium-high heat and adding just a little bit of oil to a clean pot. Just give it like a little wipe. I mean, your pan is basically ready to go for the next time you want to use it too. You could just put it away now. You also don't want to add too much water to cast iron. You can clean it occasionally with soap and water, but the more you clean it with the salt and the oil, it's just getting another layer of seasoning every time and just makes the pan better. I mean, the cast iron really cleans itself. It's fine. We've been using it for hundreds of years. It's just developing flavor and character. I think when people think about cast iron, they think like a big piece of steak or something, but veggies do really well when you treat them like meat a lot of times, Sometimes we don't respect veggies as much as we do cuts of meat. So you can tell it already has a lot of heat from the meat already. I turn it down to low. That's the thing about the heat retention, is like you don't have to blast your burner. It's still got all of that heat from caramelizing the lamb. It's not even slowed down. Once you get to know the sounds that your pan makes and how hot it gets like so fast and how long it's gonna retain that heat, you kind of create a relationship with your pan. You have to pay attention. Like I can tell that it's really hot because it's making a lot of noise. And the sizzle that it makes when there's not enough fat is different than when there is. I'm gonna tuck the lamb back in with all of these aromatics. And I have some chicken stock that's just been simmering back here. I'm just gonna pour it over the top and I'm gonna pop it in the oven. It's got everything it needs, and now it just needs time. It smells amazing. It looks really tender. So even though the lamb's been in the oven for just 2 hours, it's already really tender. Again, because this pot just retained the heat so well and really traps it in there. So now we're gonna cook some salmon, and this is really gonna demonstrate the ability for non-stick. Today we're gonna serve the salmon with some roasted radishes. I love cooking veggies in cast iron pans, just like fish or meat, because I feel like it allows me to get that color and really intensify the flavor of veggies. And then I don't even have to turn my oven on really. I can just do it all in the pan. I'm just gonna cook these radishes in a little bit of clarified butter actually, because I think it adds a nice flavor. And clarified butter is great because the milk solids have come out, so it has a really high smoke point. You know, because our cast iron is getting hot, it would encourage the fat to burn, and we don't want that. I like to cook in cast iron because it stays hot for so long. If I was using like an aluminum pan or stainless steel, they tend to get hot depending on, you know, how much heat you give them, but as soon as you take them off, they usually drop pretty fast. And one of the things that I really do love about cooking is that you have to be present. You have to pay attention. You kind of have to turn everything off and listen to what's happening. All right, so these look good. I'm just gonna tip them out onto a plate. So I'm gonna cook the salmon skin down in order to make sure that it's nice and crispy. My favorite part of salmon in particular is the skin. It's the best part, super crispy, lots of flavor. And I think a lot of people are afraid to cook salmon with skin on at home, and this is the best way to do it. The one thing I recommend is leaving your salmon out for a little while, first to temper, and also to let the skin kind of dry out a little bit. Another trick that I use is it should be scaled. You find which way the scales went. This is the opposite direction, and get any stray scales that are still in there. And if you have a cat, that's when they try to jump in there. His little hands are like trying to grab the plate. He loves fish. So you actually want to start with your pan on the hotter side. I would say like medium. If your medium is a 7, then go like to an 8, because once you get to that 8, it's gonna stay there. But we want to turn it down, like right after the salmon goes in. Really pay attention right now. I do like to season the skin. I know like some people will say that it releases some of the moisture, but we sucked all the moisture out of that skin. So the salt actually helps create a little bit of a crusty barrier. It will help crisp it up actually. Now I took the pan off the heat because I can tell it's really hot. I can tell that it's hot because it like starts to smoke. So I'm just adding a thin layer of oil, just enough to coat the bottom of the pan. When you add your fish in, you want to press it down so that the muscles tend to relax, because they will stiffen up and then it's going to pull the skin together, and you don't want that to happen. So you can put anything on top of your fish, like a saucer or a coffee mug, doesn't matter. I happen to have these little things which are called fish weights, so I just have them close by ready to go. You could also use the back of a spatula and hold it there. You want the skin to crisp up, and then we're just going to turn the heat down to low, like very low. I'm gonna add a bit more oil. I can already tell that it's relaxed because it's not moving anymore. I don't see it contracting. You can hear the skin starting to sizzle under there. I keep moving it around so like the fat gets into the little sides. You also want this to go really slowly because it's gonna cook the whole way on the skin side, and fish does not like to get cooked quickly. So I know it's really tempting to want to peek under the skin, but the important thing about this being non-stick is that you kind of just let it be and let it do its thing. Some of the moisture is coming out, and if you try to mess with it now, it will get stuck. Time is on your side here, and the cast iron should take care of everything. My first experience with cast iron was actually in a 2-Michelin seafood restaurant. It was my first real job ever. We cooked all of our seafood in both cast iron and rolled steel, but a lot of cast iron. And it really surprised me. I learned right away that it was the best tool for fish. And the thing is though, we had to learn how to treat the pans with respect and take really good care of them. After service every night, you know, we had to, that was the first thing we did. Is like we cleaned out our pans, we seasoned them. While you're in service, your entremont, or basically like the guy next to you who doing all your sides, you know, he's preparing the pans, like making sure they're hot, making sure they're seasoned with oil, and it's kind of like your best friend in the kitchen. When you have your pan ready to go, you can kind of do anything in there. So I can already tell that the salmon is kind of released from the pan, because if I barely touch it, it's not sticking. We can check out the bottom, and I can hear the skin kind of bubbling on this guy. The fish has totally transformed its color. You can tell like it's really close to being done. The skin is definitely not sticking. I can definitely pick this one up and move it around. So we're good. The nonstick action has held up its end of the bargain. By cooking the salmon, we covered all of the benefits of cooking with cast iron. It retains the heat super well. Obviously it's non-stick and it's gonna be really easy to clean. While we have our pan here and we wanna clean it out, again, my go-to, I always throw a little bit of salt in there. I like the friction that it provides. Just like a big pinch of salt. You can put it back on the heat if you want. And literally all you have to do is wipe it out. You can tell the salt's picked up all that oil from the fish. It will definitely clear out most of the flavor that's been in that oil. Sometimes I cook like cobblers in here with raspberries and other sweet stuff, and obviously I don't want it to taste like fish. So the salt actually really helps with that. And we have a clean pan. So I'm gonna show you how to fry an egg in a pan, which I think really helps explain the versatility of the cast iron, shows its ability to get hot and retain heat. And also surprisingly, it also shows that it can be non-stick. And when we're done with this egg, super easy to clean. So again, very versatile. You want the pan to be really hot when you're frying an egg. Once I see a little bit of dark edges around the outside, I can turn the heat down to like a medium low. And I'm just swirling the pan around a little bit so we can make sure the oil is getting all around the egg. And I'm seeing a little bit of color, so I'm just gonna turn it down. And I'm actually gonna cover it so it has the opportunity to cook from the top just a little bit. And you can hear it starting to like pop, which means I know that the egg white is separating from the pan. So it's been there for like 30 seconds. You can start to play with it. You can see it's already separated. This is a perfect egg for an egg sandwich, by the way. And just like gently get a spatula under there and transfer it to your plate. And all you have to do is wipe out your pan and you're ready to fry another egg. I cook many things in my cast iron at home, and I hope that you're encouraged to go play around and cook lots of different things in cast iron at home.